Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending today's webinar. Before we start off with the webinar, I have a few housekeeping things to cover. Um, Firstly, there is a Q&A section where you can submit all your questions. It'll be addressed at the end of the presentation. And as always, this webinar is recorded, and we will send it to you as soon as it's available. So moving on to today's presentation, meet the partner team. You must be familiar with Denise and Ranak. They are from partner sales team, and Kalyan, who handles all things related to partner operations. Jeff and Juan, they support the platform partners. And I'm Manasa, and I'm on point for everything related to partner marketing. And moving on, today's speakers, we have Chris Medina and Denise Bodnar. Chris will talk about everything related to chef compliance, which can help with multi and hybrid cloud workflows. And Denise will cover all things related to ChefConf online, which has things related to partners. And the first part that we have now is the ChefConf part. Over to you, Denise.
Thank you, Manasa. So I just wanted to take a moment. Thank you for everyone being here and everyone who will take the time to watch this recorded session. Really appreciate it. But I wanted to take a moment and just talk a little bit about ChefConf, because as you can see, if we can move the slide, I don't know, Chris, if that's, he's slacking there. I gotta, okay, perfect. We're only 47 days away, which is, it just creeps up so quick. But this year it's a new date for us. So we've always had ChefConf in May, and this year it is September. We've put together a couple of goals for our partners for ChefConf this year. One, we wanted to make sure that our partners were more visible at ChefConf, and we put some options of how we would do that. And one of them are Chef Partner Awards, having speakers that are partner speakers, and sponsorship. So, and I'll go into some of that. And then the other goal that we had is we really want to make sure that we are providing our partners as much value as possible at ChefConf. So again, we've kind of looked at, different ways to do that. And one of the things that we've added this year is the Chef Leadership Connect. And this is a one session that is completely partner focused. It will be the opportunity for you guys to hear from our executive team, how partners are playing in the product roadmap, the sales strategy, marketing, different resources that we have available today, and then just also updates, listening to your feedback. We're implementing new things for training and support. So I really would encourage everyone, if you can, register and attend that partner session, I think it'll be worth your time. One of the things I said about providing the visibility for partners was the awards. If you could go back just one moment, Chris, we have to get our timing better here. You may have already seen an email going that has landed in your inbox for a Chef Partner Award submission form. So if everyone, it just takes 5 minutes. We did this last year. We are going to recognize our partners in 4 different areas, and this will be announced in the keynote by our keynote speaker at ChefConf, and that is Partner of the Year, Emerging Partner of the Year, Technology Partner, and Public Sector Partner. So again, we'll be sending this out. I think we're sending it out like 3 different times. If you are not seeing these emails, please just, send me a quick email and I'd be happy to get that to you. But really, it's just 5 minutes of your time. And it's really a great opportunity for our partners to, again, get some visibility at ChefConf and to award them for all their hard work also. Okay, Chris, next slide. And one of the things I had mentioned of ways that we're trying to make, our partners more visible at ChefConf, one way you can do that, besides I had said becoming a speaker or awards, is sponsorship. So, it's going to be, a virtual event again. And so one of the benefits of that is you can get a lot more people there. So we're anticipating about 3,000 people. So if you want to get your brand to have that many eyes looking at it, then this is a good opportunity for you to do that. And I just want to go make sure I'm covering everything on that. I think we have options starting about 3,000 to do that. And I don't know all the details of what you get, but if you are interested, please reach out to me. You can put a note here in the, if you're live here attending right now, you can put a note in our chat session. Or like I say, you can reach out to me and we can get you more details on that. And I think that is it on my side right now. So I would love to introduce Chris Medina, who is heads up our everything chef in our Fed space. And one of the things that he keeps coming across is cloud compliance. And I know that's something that everyone out there, you definitely are seeing your customers. This is a problem as far as this is one of their goals that they want to achieve and how you go about in doing that. So this is something that we can help with our solution. And and Chris is fantastic, knows everything about this, and we're really very lucky to have him talk with us today. So he's going to go through a presentation that he would be talking to customers about. So you'll kind of get it from, it's not so much educating you guys on this, but really how to talk to a customer about Chef Cloud compliance. So Chris?
Thanks, Denise. I have a feeling you're never going to let me work slides again, and that's okay. This is simply too technical for me, right? Thanks, everyone. My name is Chris Medina. I generally manage a bunch of things here, but today I'm going to be going over how I present our cloud compliance solutions to the field and to a customer. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I will go through these. It's just a few slides, it's not a ton, so hopefully I'll make them interesting. But if you have questions, put them in the chat and hopefully Denise or Manasa we can bring them up at the end and talk about them, right? Okay. Here we go. So typically what we talk to customers about when they bring us in is on automation and infrastructure configuration. But our product line does so much more. But the meeting always starts with, so where are you? We want to meet the customer where they're at. So we talk about, what their software success metrics look like, right? And we want to level up with some key terms, and the biggest one being velocity, right? And so velocity, there are some key elements which start with or consist of speed, efficiency, and risk, right? How fast do we want to make a change or make a distribution or deploy a piece of infrastructure or whatever that is? Typically why customers have brought in automation is to quicken things, is to hasten things, is to have access to and make changes at a very fast rate. But as you can see from a lot of these people who've done this, efficiency matters. Being able to go fast is, really cool. But if you're not efficient by the time you get there, I was thinking about the other day, my wife asked me to go to the store and bring home ketchup. And I was like, okay, let me get this done. I can get back to my meeting. I went out, I came back, and she's like, yeah, I didn't ask for Heinz. I asked for this other brand. And oh, by the way, I needed it organic. And I was like, okay, so I just killed 15 minutes, 20 minutes of my time. That's a good example of the efficiency rate. So if you're shipping things, that's great. If you're shipping them fast, that's great. But if they're not effective if they're not doing the things that you need them to do, then that's a problem. The other thing that can really hinder or speed your success and velocity is risk, right? So the risks of, hey, I shipped a thing, or I got that ketchup there and maybe that wasn't the proper ingredient. Maybe I made a change to my environment, so on and so forth, and it messed up dependencies or broke dependencies with other things that are happening with the whole product flow or software flow. So these are the main pieces, and arguably there's a number of other ones, but these are the main elements of velocity, and velocity is critical to everything on the return for that group, right? So if you're at a very high executive level, they want to understand, what's my return? If I invest in this product, or does this tool set going to help me? Where does it help me? Does it help me, with consolidation? Does it help me with the speed to, getting a software product out over my competition? Does it free up time for my internal staff to do other things, or be more creative? Those are the types of things that they're looking for, and they'll want to add obviously monetary things to that. So as we see that, we come back to the whole premise behind where we are with cloud today, right? Why would we migrate to the cloud? Well, obviously speed, right? Because you essentially can deploy things, provision things much faster than you ever could getting a team to ship a box, configure it, drop it in the rack, and do all the things. And it can also be easily reprovisioned, right? There's a warehouse, or the ability to order things right there, real time, and have it set up and have it send you an email back or some type of notification that allows you to understand that it's there and it's ready for you. So that in and of itself is fantastic, and a big reason why you go to the cloud. But ensuring that you have those platforms as a service offerings is key, and then the underlying network and infrastructure being managed, those are all provisioned in the cloud. So you don't have to go through all the manual labor tasks that you might have in the past, which would induce risk. Excuse me. So what would prohibit us from going to the cloud? Why wouldn't we do that? Why are some customers still pretty sensitive about moving everything there? I mean, it just makes so much sense, right? Well, the first thing would be skills gap, right? Because they have been administrators or doing things hands-on for so long, you have this new methodology, you have these new toolkits. So there's a big skills gap that happens between that transfer. And you don't want to have to go off and hire new people. You probably want to invest in training, but it costs money to fill that gap. Known risks. So adapting to the deployment and procedures of the cloud environment, right? What are the risks of the duplications of effort? What are the risks of putting that application from a cloud standpoint and having it delivered from the cloud instead of your own network, right? As opposed to the unknown risks, right? There are certain things about the cloud that maybe I don't know. Maybe there are certain requirements that need to be in terms of secure transformation of information or locking down information while it's there. I had real ability to do that or known ability to do that while I was on-prem. And so, I want to make sure that I have that control over my environment in order for a number of things: data leakage, just security in general, but efficiency for the customers to get a hold of that information, for them to do business quickly, transactions and processing, all of that other stuff. So we look at the reasons why that can be difficult. If this is a typical pipeline, if you have customers who are doing it, it'll look similar to this. But essentially what we want to look at is how mature these particular types of pipelines are. And they could be doing this in a number of different methods and using different tools. But essentially what we're saying is, hey, I've got development that integrates with operations for deployment. And then I have this group called a security team that goes, okay, I see that you're trying to deliver something to production. Let's ensure that it meets all the security standards that it should be. And so you may have heard of a term called shifting left. You'll hear a lot about that, especially with DevOps or DevSecOps, where everything's shifting left in terms of testing, specifically security and DevSecOps. But the farther you can shift security left in this process is really the measure of maturity at which that customer is progressing. And I'll talk to them about that. Where do you sit here? Do you have this type of workflow going today? What are some of the things that you're using? Where are you delivering it to, right? You may have a number of different clouds you're delivering to, but you may have multiple pipelines also for each one of these different ones. And so that makes things complex. It makes visibility hard. It makes securing things hard. Each one of these obviously have different parameters and different requirements for certain types of security. And so the reason for that is all the things that are underneath, right? So more in detail, if we look underneath the hood, there's a ton of things happening here, right? There are a ton of people involved. There are a ton of different packages and tool sets that, are integrated into this pipeline. But there is a commonality. If you notice all the puzzle pieces at the bottom, there is some commonality between each one of those things. And so to be able to bring these together is key in terms of DevOps. That's why DevOps was created. But automation is the backbone for all of it. Now, I'm going to start talking about some of the problems with the way customers are building out their pipelines today. And that would include security versus progress, right? So now I've kind of cleaned up or drilled down into what that pipeline would look like. You've got development, you've got operations, and then you have delivery with security. Security sending back, hey, you missed these particular specifications that we need to deploy into production. It's not into alignment. But at the end of the day, a DevOps is really a factory, right? It's that speed, it's that velocity. How am I going to get things out to production? And so this factory continuously generates configuration changes, new infrastructure, new applications, new feature functionalities all the time. And it's happening in a consistent flow. And so we want to understand from the customer those timelines, like how fast are you doing these things, right? Because that will give us metrics in order to make a business case for, the way that workflow can be managed. And so one of the bigger problems, as you can see to the right, is that, hey, I do these audits from time to time, and I have clear visibility that I'm in alignment. But the reality of what's happening is the DevOps pipeline is changing production all the time. And so it's not until I get to those audit cycles where I have everybody hands on deck trying to fill those gaps and those misses in terms of what our policies are. So we race to the audit and we look good. But what we really want as a company, if we're holistically thinking about where we are from a security standpoint and ensuring that there's nothing broken or that we're getting things out quickly and reliably, is ensuring that we have full visibility. Now, this all has to do with velocity in terms of where they're sending it into the cloud. And that cloud doesn't necessarily have to be with a big provider. It could also be on-prem. We have many workloads that happen to be in that way. We have hybrid workloads where customers have certain applications that simply can't be put in the cloud as a policy of security. And so we want to move them more in that maturity life cycle and be able to give them the visibility no matter what environment they're working in. So again, I have some problems, right, when I'm doing this. If I'm migrating to the cloud or I'm conducting operations in the cloud, I need to be able to validate that everything's properly configured, right? Whether that's applications or infrastructure or whatever that is, I'm moving these things in question into my production environment. And what I need to know is, can I take care of my production environment? Are there things that are misaligned? Maybe we changed our security policies from 10 character passwords to 12 character passwords, whatever the policy is today. And I need to ensure that that alignment is happening. Even more so, when I'm delivering things, I want to ensure that those things are delivered in alignment. If I already have a production area that's completely in alignment with all of my policies and configurations properly, I want to ensure that anything I deliver there is also in tune with that. So that's another part of that. And to be able to do that through the pipeline is critical. We do that with automation, right? A lot of folks bring in automation to help with that particular instance, but a lot of times people find that just integrating automation even sometimes slows them down even more, because to be able to automate properly, when you send things in there, you could actually have breakage. You could break anything from API connections, any type of dependency within the solution. I've got backend databases. I have to do search queries, and I have to draw that information into the application itself. So that's really where the big headache comes from with, this whole workflow, right? I've got new feature functionality. I want to get it out to production as fast as I can. And I want to ensure that it works when it gets there. So how would we do that? We would do that through automation, right? Automation is the common language by which we bring these three big entities together, right? You've got development, operations, and security teams who are all looking to ensure that production runs well. And in a 5 or 10 nines SLA, or ensuring that we have availability of our applications, on a standard basis, easy failover, easy all of that, right? Easy recovery, all of those things. Automation plays a key role. And so within that, we say, hey, make everything as code. If you can codify all of these things, especially from a cloud standpoint, right, then you're able to be much more agile, and you can mature those pipelines in a much easier and creative way. So by codifying things like, say, your security policy, you could detect, any inaccuracies, any misalignments that are happening in production. You can correct those almost immediately, and you can automate the testing of those corrections to ensure the dependencies aren't broken. Now, from a strategic point of view, when we talk about codifying certain things, and I'm just using security as policy, a security policy as an example, it could be anything. It could be a piece of hardware. It could be a Linux box. It could be a Windows box. It could be anything. But to be able to integrate the code of those particular things, the network configurations, how that particular infrastructure is deployed, but more so, and what's a real good example is using a security policy, I can build that code into my pipeline. So from the left-hand side, I can move all of that testing through the pipeline and ensure that once it gets there, it's properly aligned, it's going to function, and we're going to have access to it, and the customers will be happy. Okay, so what are some examples of that, Chris? That's great. Okay, so I've got some misalignment that's happening in my production. I need to ensure things like Java is installed, or I need Java installed in this area and maybe not in that area. Tomcat, any type of applications that I want to deliver into those, I should be able to automate. I should be able to take, that particular piece of software and say, hey, install it on these particular nodes, this IP range, this particular division, whatever that is. I can creatively build that as a piece of code. Also, I can install those things, right? I can install them at the beginning. I can ensure that those things are built as we deploy them. In fact, a good example would be if I had a Windows box that needed Microsoft Office on it before it got in, to production. I want to ensure that everything's set up so that my end customer, whether that be internal or external, has the proper applications when it reaches there and they have access. So to be able to do this, to install them, configure them, and then deploy them in a timely fashion can ensure and speed up that velocity that we need to go to market. Now, once we're there and we have this workflow started and we can continuously take a look at all those things, we want to be able to see it all, right? We want to understand the current state of what our alignment is. Do we have all the proper infrastructure? Do we have all the proper applications? Is it all aligned with the proper security standards or the security policies of corporate or agency, whatever that is? And what we do is, we have baselines. Chef has the ability to pull down, as with a lot of other companies, but you have the ability to pull down from CIS and or DISA, STIGs, to be able to align to best practices of what those alignments should look like. So what really does that look like? And now the customer often asks me, all right, so Chris, this is all great and everything, but there's a lot of overlap in your space. What is it that, differentiates you in our march or our plans to move into the cloud, or how we're maintaining our cloud environment? Well, in a very granular perspective, what we're bringing from an automation take is the ability to bring a unified language, right? To have a declarative language that does the things that you need them to do in a very granular aspect, and also deliver packages, the ability to deliver packages that are aligned to whatever it is that you need. So in this example, what I'm saying is, if we had a security policy that said, or we needed a deployment policy that said, everything that I'm shipping into my AWS cloud has to support SSH, right? You have scripting tools that have certain code that say, hey, this is how I do that. You have a testing language, which is a best practice to say, hey, let's ensure that everything that's already in the cloud has SSH connected to it. And is it the right version, right? In this instance, we're saying we need it to be not version 1, but version 2. And so a compliance language would give you all of that. It would tell you, hey, I'm looking at this particular control. Here's the description, here's the impact, and what I want to do is test it and then configure it and ensure that it's properly done. And we need to do that across the board, right? It can't be with just one particular platform. It has to be with many. So in that same instance, I'm looking at NTLM version 2. I'm just going into the Windows instance of that and ensuring that it's at the proper level. So I have a lot of instances of this, but essentially what I'm saying is, hey, what we want to do is we want to make sure that, A, we have the ability to go in through code and make the changes and do the things that we need it to do. But we also want to test, and test is a huge factor in what we do in terms of the DevOps pipeline. If they're not doing that, as an example, if they have direct automation going into production where they say, hey, I need to turn on port 80 or turn off port 80, do they test it first, or do they just go in and do the thing, right? Because if you don't test it first, you're going to start breaking things, right? Just very simply, I've got a number of applications that depend on that server having port 80 open, or the web interface. If you're not familiar with port 80, if the web interface isn't open, then I'm not going to be able to do business. This is huge, especially from a cloud aspect. So having different types of instances in detail, very granular, right? I want to be able to install a particular application. I want to be able to set up files and with the proper security configuration. I want to be able to check out my S3 buckets on Azure, I'm sorry, on AWS, or maybe understand what my network interfaces look like on Azure, right? We have to be able to have full visibility into what's happening. And if we can do that through a common language, then we can do that with nearly anything, right? We can bring all of this stuff together. And once we have those things, right, we can build out artifacts. So now I'm moving in a little bit more advanced. As the company or agency is maturing and they're going, yes, with code, I can do all of these great things, Chris. But how can I increase my velocity from that standpoint? Because I've got a lot of this stuff. I'm doing shell scripting, and I've got other methods of doing automation within my environment. What we propose for the customer is to take all of those things and wrap them around the packages and create artifacts that are deliverable. In other words, if you had a service catalog or a catalog, not unlike the catalogs you probably knew growing up, where you went to JCPenney's and you said, hey, I want, this outfit, and you can just send it to me, right? It's not any different here from a production line standpoint. If I take all my build instructions and my configuration instructions and I wrap them around, and let's call the puzzle piece, let's say a Linux box, then once it's deployed from a cloud aspect, then I can ensure that everything is in line with that particular workload. Yeah? There may be some questions around that. Remember, please ask your questions in the chat so we can get to them at the end. And I'm happy to go back over these. In this case, is compliance definition, it's, hey, I might do a test, build the checksum, or understand, check the checksum, right? If I had a patch that I got from SolarWinds. Let's ensure that I know the originating checksum and check that through the pipeline, because you never know when something could attach itself to that download on that patch, and then you deploy it into your environment. Very bad. So what would that look like functionally? And I'm going to show you, I'll show the customer kind of overview workflows and how those work. I'll do whiteboard sessions with them on how pipelines can help them better increase their velocity. But if you have the concept of, hey, I'm going to create this workload artifact with, let's say, and I'll just use a Linux box with all the security protocols wrapped in it. I've built this thing and I've checksummed it. Once I'm able to build all those things that I need, I can create a catalog, which in this picture we're calling a trusted artifact store. I can build a catalog full of those things, right? They will all have been checked through the pipeline and pushed into production. And now all my production instances, depicted here by project A, B, and C, I could even build out new projects with all of those things that I have in my catalog. I hope that makes sense to everybody. I'm looking forward to the questions at the end. But if you take this even further, I've created now this human-free zone, or what I call a secure supply chain of code, to which not only have I checked everything out and ensured that these are all properly aligned, they're approved, and they're hard-coded in to where no one has changed them. If they did, I'd know via checksum. But I can deploy these readily into my environment, right? If I have patch updates, if I have Ubuntu servers, if I have new applications, whatever those are, I can have them in that store, and I can say, hey, project A needs, I don't know, Excel deployed. They need CrowdStrike deployed on every box. But project C wants Norton antivirus, right? I can just, as code, tell all the fleet that, whatever you need, go up, find the artifact store for these particular instances, and those will be your policies to run. So now if you have that built, you can move from this very linear environment to where you're looking at, or having multiple instances for the different types of clouds that you're supporting, even on-prem, to a much more agile looking workflow where you really don't care what cloud you're supporting. And in fact, you now have complete visibility if you had multiple clouds or multiple hybrid versions of the way your solution worked. You could do anything you needed to. I could test at any time. I could stage at any time and in anywhere. Well, why is that important? Well, if AWS comes to me next year and says, well, there's a 20% markup because I know you have your applications built up here, I can very easily give control back to my customer going, well, I have this all built as code. I can drop that out and have it in cloud or GCP inside of a day. So we're going to have to renegotiate that 20% markup. Or else I can bring it back on-prem. There's plenty of things that you can do without disrupting the operation from that standpoint. So really what we're doing with this is giving the control back to the customer in terms of what their workflow looks like, how they're doing their operation, and the ability to be agile in the environment and increase that velocity. That way we take, those assumptions that we had all along, right? We had that very managed security pushback on alignment to this very agile, continuous looking thing where we've created the policy as code. We have full visibility to the environment. We even have the fleet reporting back to us, how aligned they are to the particular security policy of the day that we're in. So that really concludes the pitch that I would give to the customer. It leads into a number of discussions, but there is a lot of room for especially our partnerships and partners to be able to help with this particular journey, specifically with doing the integrations, helping them build out the tool sets, helping them along with the maturity, meeting them where they are and providing plans and all this other stuff. But we really look for our partners to help us in all of these aspects. It's a very complex arena to be working in, and the partners play a big role in how Chef does business today. So from that, I'll turn it back over to you, Denise.
Great. Thank you, Chris. I think that you know, like you said, the partners can play a huge part in this, you know, from assessing at the very beginning, as far as assessing, you know, what those risks are that you had talked about, and, you know, where a customer is in that whole process for digital transformation, and, you know, where do they want to be and how to get there. So, so if there's any questions, you know, I don't know if I see anything at the moment. Always love feedback, just so we can make sure that we're providing you guys with, you know, all the materials that you need to be successful out there, and how, and, you know, and to learn how we can do a better job. So again, thank you, Chris. Thank you everyone for attending. And I look forward to, you know, talking with folks as we continue on, and hopefully see everyone at Chef Comp. Take care.